Yes. Yes. That's my refined look. Hi, how are ya? How you doing there? Let's draw some comics. Just getting my headgear on there. In case I slip and fall, this protects my noggin. Wrong headgear. All right. Hey, so what's everybody excited about this year? What are you excited to have happen in your world? Is there a certain thing? Is there a certain place? Is there a certain situation with other somebodies? Or is there a fantastic new cheese you want to try? You know, you run out of choices when your excitement is, I'm really excited to try some Gouda cheese. I mean, it's one thing to say, I'm looking forward to eating that, but it's another thing that's excitement for you. That's, oh, yeah, you know. Anyhow, I've never been excited over cheese. Maybe it's just me. Maybe everybody else is excited over cheese and I'm a weirdo. That's more than likely the situation. So, we are working on the latest page of A Village Haunted. And trying to get this here sucker done. And so we've got 6 pages, 7 pages left. And we're almost there. I laid out this page in advance, and so I've got this is the breakdown of the panels. If you could make hide nor hair of this, and so that informs me of how I need to go about putting what information in these panels. I've already made some decisions on the size of panels for my own interest, and so I'm at the point now where I'm just finishing these suckers off, but. Getting the little details put into the panels. Earlier today, I got back on the horse. Earlier today, I started working on another project that I've got with somebody else. I had a bit of a disappointing thing last year. An opportunity finally came up. After a little bit of negotiation, a little bit of frontline work, about putting together a piece for somebody, for a company. And that company, unfortunately, now has no longer the ability to do that. And without being bitter and slanderous, because that's not my intent, I would still love to do this project. But there are a great deal of people that have not been paid by such a company. And so because of that, I have zero interest in doing this. And I would like to say that this is the first time I've come across this, and I was so shocked and surprised. But unfortunately, it's not. It's not the first time that I've come across people doing work and for a company and having the company unable to pay them. And that's ridiculous. Ridiculous. So I don't know what to do with that thought, that there's a part of me that is doing what I'm doing because this is what I enjoy, and this is part of who I am, is making the stories. So I continue on with the merry march of productivity, but the truth is that that is a distressing situation. So I'm curious if anybody else has had these situations come up for them, and if anybody that watches this has had those happen, please put comments in the doodah below, or in the comment section now. But when there's multiple companies that are getting people to spend the difficult amount of time and effort and labors, things that they're trained to do to make these projects and to put these together and to work on them and to do the creative aspects of those in order to produce the materials that the company wants to publish. And either they don't pay them, or they take whatever time to pay them based on whatever requirement that they have for the facilitation of monies. I mean, honestly, don't work with these people. If this is the way it is, if you're a freelance person and you're working on a project with the expectation that, oh, I don't know, they pay you for doing the project, one might think that they had the wherewithal to follow through and do that. And if they don't, because of whatever ridiculous rubric, I think that if anything, it sort of shows that the company doesn't have enough development and doesn't have enough structural leeway that they can't pay their creative talent for doing whatever it is for them to release. Because if they had a reserve of money, they could at the very least pay a specified amount to the people that work on these projects. You know, if you hand in this, here is your check. Simple as that. You know, and yet we're hearing about situations where that's not happening, and that's offensive. I mean, that's ridiculous. If you're a dentist, you're working on somebody's teeth. They've either got health coverage, and you know that for a fact because you verified it, or they've paid at the start of their appointment. You're paying to go in and get your teeth done. You know, so we're going to do this work, and let's pay for that. You just got this done. Here's your bill. Pay. And they'll ring you through right there. You know, if you're a laborer and you're, you know, working on some city infrastructure, you're expecting economic recompense for that work. You know, working on the city plumbing, the city pipes, you're expecting that. So why is it any different for all these comic creators that are working for these companies doing these books, and then the company doesn't pay them all? And in some of these cases, there's wholesale lists of those that aren't paid for a project. In other cases, there's individuals that have repeatedly tried to warn others, saying they're not going to pay you. And if they are, they're not going to pay you in any kind of timely fashion. So I think we should generally stop giving them credibility as a company. I was really excited. I was honestly really excited to be able to work on this project for this company. And I'm thankful that we were still in the stages of me about to sign for doing it. Because now that they're unfortunately bankrupt, and I feel really bad that they are, it's a challenging time right now to keep a company going in this market. You know, there's a great deal of expectation that art's free. Not only is art free, you know, there's programs that are being made purposely to make the process easier for the non-creatives to make art themselves, to not have to engage with the people that have worked hard, labored hard to develop the creative talent to produce these things. I could just do it myself. And as much as I'm a proponent of autonomy and of people being able to facilitate things themselves, maybe we'll all get home robots set up so that we don't have to go to a dentist to get our dental work done anymore. Maybe that'll come along. Maybe everything will be turned into automation that has any kind of assembly principle. Maybe that'll just be how things go together in the future. And the problem with this is that in a capitalist system, and yeah, buckle up, here it comes. In a capitalist system, if we're creating a society that is not reliant on human beings to do things, to do the work, to produce the said material, if we're not relying on human labor and effort that's rewarded economically by, you know, the owner class or whoever it is that's the ones that are paying to have the product put together. If if they don't have to have people do it, if they can have this everything be an automated process, whether it's artificial art, whether it's machines to replace people for on a auto line for welding or whatnot. Well, how are people supposed to live this fantastic proposed super future lifestyle of leisure if they're not working, if they're not making labors, if they're not making things for the economic return that provide sustenance for themselves? So as much as, you can make some money selling this bit of, Bosch that makes it so much easier for the general horde, what you're actually doing is producing things that eliminate the necessity of your fellow human beings. It's a good job. Now, should we adapt and move as a society with time? Yeah, we should. Does that mean that we shouldn't have, the ability to create things for the benefit of us all? No, but, it's not like we're replacing. It's not like in the creation of these things that make, like, deregulate markets like that. You don't have to pay laborers to do welding on an auto line because the machine is more efficient and faster and doesn't require all the things that human beings do. Heavy frontline cost, but easy follow-through cost. You don't have to pay people for that anymore. You don't have to worry about human beings and the challenges of human beings if you could just have a robot do something or an artificial construct to do something. It's the same. It's no different than the diminished labor approach, the diminished labor protocol. You don't have to, if North American unions have a problem with doing the work, we leave the country because the government doesn't give us all of the kickbacks we want. So the employees make it more challenging to make profit because they want fair pay, fair recompense. Let's go to a place where they don't have that ability. There's enough people that are hungry enough for work and willing to debase themselves to get it. We'll just go to them. And so the people that the large industrial state that was the United States is diminishing because it's easier to farm it out where people will be expecting less in return for their efforts. So that's bad enough, right? Rather than the owner class having to be responsible towards the return, the expectation of return for the people that work for them. No, it's always about grow. It's always about consume. It's always about more. So rather than being responsible to that and recognizing that you have to support your people that produce the things that make you economic benefit, you're not going to get as much immediate economic benefit. It's going to be slower to grow and take you time. It's a long run game, but realize that you're building great benefit for a greater deal of people. Well, yeah, no, they don't. People don't want that. People want to capitalize on the return. And then when you start getting into investors, when you start getting into corporations now, when you start getting into, stocks, every one of those steps is a further step removed from humanity. If you're a banker, don't watch this show, because the least respect in the world I have is for politicians, bankers, lawyers, and bureaucrats. I'm sorry. You're hard to redeem yourself if you say, well, I work in investments. Then, you're removing humanity. You are doing your part to diminish the ability for people to be people. You can make whatever excuses you want about it. You can say whatever validating sentence that you want to diminish the impact that you're having on the world around you. But the truth is, those are all fields that reduce people down to statistical data sets, and not in a positive way. These are non-entities that supersede living, existing entities. Any corporate crap, any the law. Well, it's about the law. It's not about the law. It's about the people that the law is supposed to represent. Well, it's just basic accounting. Yeah, but that basic accounting's people. Hey, Gary, I'm on a rant. So the more that we do all these things like technology and different industrial processes and it's the democratization of things that everybody has the accessibility to these process of digital whatnots and AI whatnots and machinery whatnots. Oh, I'm still ranting now, Gary. I haven't missed anything quite because I'm still going. Chris is crazy at the start of the new year. It's a crazy show now. This is my new show. Everyone wants to listen to me at my podcast. I changed the title because it's more positive. You like that? In theory. All I'm saying is this. The more that we look forward to these things to make our lives more leisurely, there's a cost. There's a cost in all of these things. I mean, if it's to the general benefit to produce something that makes it inherently easier for everybody, fluoride in water and things like that, there's things that have actual benefit. But then there's also things that are actually removing us from humanity. The more we invent machines to do welding for us on lines, the less people that are actually involved in the fabricating process. The more that we figure out how to automate things, the less that it's actual people making money to live. And the problem is that when we say, well, we're doing all these things in order to make for a more leisurely society, leisurely for who? Because this is the skill set that people have. These are professions that people have. And the more that you do things to strip away those professions, the more that you actually hurt people in general. Now, that in mind, travel agents. You know anybody that's a travel agent? Because travel agencies tend to be something that's disappearing. They used to be all over the city that I live in. And I know where one is right now, but a number of them are gone because you can do all the travel agency stuff online. You don't need to go into a travel agent's office and book your trip. You can do so sitting on the toilet. It's made that more accessible for everybody. But of course, what it challenges is all the people that had jobs as the people that booked your trips. Well, that's one thing. That's a natural growth loss. That's a natural thing. That's as the internet comes in. The side effect of the internet coming in is that a lot of things that were necessary for bureaucratic steps, like booking a plane ticket, well, as soon as the planes went on to online, well, that deregulates that market. Now you can just do it yourself, do it from home. There's even more and more websites that come up and develop over time to get you incentives. If you book a room with this place, if you book a trip with this company, right? So that's a natural step development that's already happening and happened. It's a byproduct. And so what I mean by it's a byproduct, that's not a direct action to eliminate people. A direct action to eliminate people is to develop a machine that welds faster on an auto line rather than taking care of employees. Put a machine in. That is not a byproduct of the action. That's the specific action or specific approach or a specific attempt here is to eliminate people for all kinds of reasons. But the inherent bottom line of those reasons, the fundamental bottom line, of those reasons is more money. When the owner wants to get investors, now the investors also want more money. When you sell stocks, now the people owning the stocks want more money. When you get your board of directors based on the people that own the most stocks or however it is that they come about for your company, well, they want even more money. And all these steps are farther and farther away from the people that are on the line producing the material good. Every one of those steps is a step away from caring about others. Yep, that's my crazy rant for the day. Oh, no, it's not. I got more. The more that you produce something, and you produce something in a haphazard, immediate, let's get it out as fast as we can fashion, yeah, you'll have the occasional product that's wonderful. It's absolutely aces. Okay, Gary's here. Let's use Star Wars as an example, Gary, because Gary's never gone on a Star Wars rant. Andor is a thing that both Gary and I think is absolutely fantastic. Andor is a fine example of a continuation of product that has a real quality of its production. It's an absolute, there you go. It's an absolute product that's takes the principles at hand of what Star Wars is and was, and looks at it as it should be looked at. It's not about member berries. It's not about producing something because, lightsabers. It's not about Star Wars isms. It's about assessing bureaucracy and politics in a world of a universe of dehumanization, and how people rise up because they're diminished. A revolution isn't happening because of everybody's individual "I'm so hard done by." A revolution happens from suppression, from diminishment. When you strip people down, and for no other reason than bureaucracy, when you strip people down for no other reason than control, and your, the benefit of this group as opposed to the benefit of who was there, as opposed to the benefit of all. Let's cut down forests. Why? Because we need more ground for cattle, for hamburgers. Let's cut down forests. As aggressive as that point is, it's a real thing. What's the cause of our reasoning? And the unfortunate truth is that it doesn't work. So Andor is a good example. Obi-Wan is not a good example. Obi-Wan is a lot of member berries, because honestly, how do Obi-Wan's story is told? It's called Clone Wars. It's called the films that he's in. It's one of those things that you could have had simple flashback stuff in order to structure Obi-Wan as what the hell happened in the time period of 18 years before, everything came together for Luke to leave the farm. What could have come together for the end of Rogue One to have happened outside of and then of course Leia's ship gets stopped outside of Tatooine at the start of Star Wars, A New Hope. I hate calling it A New Hope still to this day. It's still Star Wars to me. So what was Obi-Wan doing until then? You could just do that really easily in a far less fully rounded way of trying to create an entire show that leaps to include all of these little things that they're member berries. They're so dependent on fitting in all these. Oh, you remember that? Oh, you like that? Remember how he can do this? Let's have this character there again. Let's bring this part in. Hey, let's make sure we get back to the actor who plays a dude dressed up in a robot suit with a different voice. Why? You didn't have to have that actor for all that stuff. But it's member berries. Oh, look, Anakin's under there. I couldn't really tell you the difference whether or not it was that actor or not. So it's not about an actual thing. It's not structured about an actual objective contextual reason of what we're trying to explore and examine. What's our concept here? Star Wars. Whereas the concept of something like Andor has a deeper meaning, a deeper resonance. And as soon as we step it away from the deeper meaning, the deeper resonance to humanity, that's where we lose it. So why is Obi-Wan less accepted than, or less appreciated in the long term as something like Andor, even though Andor has a less recognizable character for most people? Good actor, and from a great film, but a less recognizable guy than Ewan, McGregor or Obi-Wan Kenobi. So it's the more that we step these things away, so Disney completely misses the mark there, just like Disney missed the mark by hiring J.J. Abrams for the Star Wars franchise, for the films, because his entire process was he thought that he needed to fix Star Wars to take it back to what he remembers Star Wars from his childhood was. But he didn't need to fix Star Wars. Star Wars was still being created by the guy that initially made it. Was as good as the ones that he made earlier on? No, they just weren't. The prequels were really complicated, and he tried to fit an awful lot of story beats in there with wooden acting, because you're trying to get so many dialogue points across, you're trying to get so many happenstance across that are and then thinking. You're going to get chunky dialogue, chunky acting. This is the panel I'm drawing now. It's the two boys riding by a baseball diamond netting. So now I drew it like this, but the truth is that old school baseball diamonds were this, and they were all the same height. And many times they had a bridging going across the top. So I have to change that in my own initial sketch. So I think that when you look at whatever it is you're looking at, is look at it from a human standpoint. Even when you're drawing your stories, your story isn't about dropping terms, dropping character names, dropping this, dropping that, dropping information. It has to be a fluid flow, and it has to have some sort of key element to moving that story forward. The problem that I had with Glass Onion by Rain, I forgot his name. If anybody here remembers his name, type it down. I love this director. I love Knives Out. And I love what he did with Last Jedi. That's the last good Star Wars movie. But the problem with Glass Onion is that there's no human connection established. We don't care about anybody in that thing, in that project. For a good percentage of the movie, there's no empathetic connection. There's no human connection other than, oh, there's the guy from the last movie. It's not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough of an emotional impact for us as viewers we're watching crappy people and trying to figure out if the crappy, Ryan Johnson, thank you, Gary. We're trying to figure out if the crappy people are good people, right? We're trying to figure out is there anybody here redeeming as we go through the story, because they all seem to be superficial, self-centered jerks. Well, let's watch and find out. But that only carries you so far. It only carries you so far before you realize, I'm just watching jerks. Gary says, it's true for the first half, at least everyone is sort of detestable aside from blank. I would argue that for the second half, everyone is still detestable. It just inserts the sister character. And without giving away too much for those that haven't seen it, that's not enough, in my opinion. Because I wasn't even sure that character who they said they were. I really wasn't. I was expecting that to be the turn for the film. I was expecting, because this is what Hollywood does now. They do these ridiculous turns. And, oh yeah, except it wasn't so-and-so. It was this. Come on. It wasn't this. It's just, you wrote yourself into a corner. So, yeah, that doesn't work. What's that called? Something about expectations. Right? And I'm sorry, that's not That's not writing. Writing is therefore and because. Writing is not and then. That's and then writing. All of the name dropping was too much. We got really quickly and really clearly that all of these actors, all of these characters that they were portraying were superficial pieces of garbage. Immediately, we got it. Move on. And when you have the repetitiveness of everybody name dropping, of everybody saying the same sort of dialogue about, well, I'm so and so is coming over at this time and I'm doing such and such with so and so at such and such a place. You're doing two things to your piece. One, you're dismissing your piece for its longevity, because if your piece is so dependent on people knowing who Jared Leto is in 20 years, who's going to care? Who's going to care? Like if I arbitrarily mention Cary Grant because Cary Grant's a big actor today, and Cary wants to watch this in 20 years after Cary Grant's died, and maybe has never seen a Cary Grant film, is it going to resonate the same as opposed to if they made up characters, or if they made up these contextual situations and companies instead of having it rooted so linearly in time? It's not going to last. It's one of those things that is going to take people from it. I found that disappointing. I thought that was a miss on their part. So it's hard. You got characters that are irredeemable. And at the end, the big part that ticks me off is when one character, leaving a space, walks and joins all of these deplorable characters. Joins them on the same staircase with the same sense of resolution. So you've taken your lead, the person that's supposed to be your ethical key point, and just made them one of the others. Like they're all in it together. They're not. They never were. But you you cut a piece out of your character by doing that. A good revenge story is revenge to self-harm. A good revenge story is even the Count of Monte Cristo. Even if you read that one, a good revenge story has cost. It has cause and effect. So that's why I'm not as big a fan of Glass Onion, and I never will be. You also got the fact that he's done another ensemble cast into another whodunit mystery. There are so many different vehicles. If you were to look at the fact that he did Brick, which is a Chandler-esque film, and then he does Knives Out, which is more like a Poirot or a Sherlock Holmes type well, not even Sherlock Holmes. It's definitely like a Poirot. It's definitely like an Agatha Christie, as opposed to Prick being a Private Gumshoe 1930s noir piece. There are all kinds of other things in the mystery genres. You could have done a Sherlock Holmes procedural of Blanc and the narrator witness. What that person is a person that we watch the film as they work with Blanc and follow Blanc through his processes of solving the case. That the piece could have been like that, where again he's exploring another avenue of the mystery genre, as opposed to regurgitating the ensemble cast piece to the point where it's just there's vignettes of people that have no meaning to the story whatsoever, that the film is actually covered with, like Serena Williams' appearance. Pointless. Just pointless. I had hope for more. I still appreciate the heck out of Rian Johnson. I think he's a fantastic director and a fantastic writer. But this one missed. Everyone can't hit. It's just because you've got all the characters in there and the ostentatious story and associations through it doesn't make it good. But this is, again, it's like the industrialization process of telling a murder mystery. It becomes industrialized, and the second part of it is diminished from the first part. Just like Andor works in a production line of Disney films, that's a good one. But there's lemons along the way in production. Clone Wars was phenomenal. Rebels was phenomenal. Resistance was garbage. It's just garbage, and it's not because of the art style change. It's because of the writing. It's because of it misses the emotional human resonance that both Rebels had, not to the same level that Clone Wars did. Clone Wars was even stronger at it. But the cost of conflict, the byproduct of conflict and trying to find safety and security and assurity in a universe at war, and what that means for all the players involved. Clone Wars is a fantastic thing, even if it is an animated thing. People diminish it because of that, but it's a fine example of storytelling and series writing. I think I hold Clone Wars in much higher regard than things like Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad or Sopranos. You want to see a good example of a show like what Breaking Bad and Walking Dead and The Sopranos suggest to be, watch The Wire. Because there's one that doesn't glorify any of its characters in these debased scenarios, these debased situations. It doesn't glorify anything. They're all in the gutter. And it doesn't worry about keeping everybody pretty, keeping everybody noble, and keeping everybody of some kind of noble, heroic posture. No point, no time. Tell the story. So any of these projects that we do, we have to, I think, account for and keep in track for ourselves along the way of what our characters are and what their motivations are and what gravitas they bring to any scene. Gary, I'm going to apologize right off the hop, but I'm using you as an example again. Gary's first two books, and I say his first two because I haven't read his third yet. Apparently it's coming out in the new year, folks. Get ready. You should be ordering it and you should get copies of the first two books of Gary's then of Dinosaur versus Marsbots, or DVSM. Because Gary invests a lot of time in talking through the characters' perspectives about how they are contextualized in the greater narrative. The story is told through the characters that we're watching. It's a fantastic way to come at it. It's a fantastic way to do it because we care about the individuals in the story then, and we want to know what happens to them and how not only they react, but how those characters engage in that world. And then when he did the second book, he did it again. That's great. I hold that as a high example of good storytelling. We're going to do a book review, Gary, coming up we've got one slated for doing a review on DVSM on a quick little 1 minute thing. Lori and I have been talking about it. We've even done graphics. I'll show you something fun just for quick. Excuse me for my diversion for a second, folks, but we've got, is it this? We're setting it up so that we're going to do, these little elements that I've dropped in here. We're going to do a review, and we're going to do a review in the way that it's actually a classified report on your book. We're looking at doing it as a secret government file, a secret government film talking about the book itself. So, just because you got to support and encourage good things, good projects. You got to support and encourage good productivity. my rant for that I'm coming at with everything for the year. Oh, that's very nice. I say that, but it's a good. You got to celebrate good work. My whole approach on these rants for the year that I've already started with, and the reason for the change to my podcast name from no one wants to listen to my podcast to everyone wants to listen to my podcast is twofold. One, it's my ambivalence about whether anybody's here or not listening, and I'm doing what I'm doing. I talk, and I work in the studio anyways. There's an isolating thing to work in your studio by yourself all the time. You feel a sense of disconnect with people. One thing that helps me is to feel like I'm connecting with others is, I chat and the occasional person drops by and they join me for the chat. Good stuff. That's fun. That works for me. Yeah, I got 4 or 5 people that tune in regularly. That's everybody. It's because it's a subjective thing. I'm not concerned about numbers and followers and all those things. I'm not concerned about, agendas. It's just here I am doing this, but I'm going to be far more clear about, as best as I can, about promoting and encouraging people to express themselves and to create their work and to try to connect to legitimate, reasonable companies that are going to reward them economically for their efforts. That's what this talk started with today, is about I had a contract set up to work for a mid-level publisher, not the Marvel and DC, but one of the next level down. They're gone. That's it. There's bankruptcies happening with some of these companies now, and they're all disappearing the way of the dodo. And what I mean by disappearing the way of the dodo is that not only are some of them not paying people and not worrying it because it's become about product as opposed to the people working for them. You can go bankrupt if you want, but you haven't paid any of the creators before you did it. So that's problematic. And you can't expect that even if this company survives this bankruptcy and is picked up by somebody else, don't expect people to want to work with you. There's companies right now that people I know that have done things for other people, and their projects and they still haven't been paid. And if we're going to look at anything in this industry, it's not about our concern for being replaced by robots. Automation like that and the democratization of creativity for anybody to be able to do it with click of buttons and talking about ideas that I want in a picture. Those happen because companies don't appreciate the creativity that is involved and the efforts that are involved. And CrossGen in the 2000s is another example. Thank you, Malcolm. These companies are concerned about their self and their existence as a company first. That's the bottom line. Marvel puts out all this corporate product that it does. DC puts out all this corporate. How many Batman books can you make, for heaven's sakes? Because consumers just no Batman, more Batman. Spawn. Come on. There's a reason we used to have fantastic 100-page giants, is because you could do all these little short stories and little adventures and forays into other Batman approaches. And this one, Batman has a giant head. Well, there you got the giant head Batman itch out of the way. You don't need to devote a 4-issue series to it, especially when you're doing recurring series that are really a lot of the same stuff over and over again. So it's the corporate machine just grinding out more little pieces played by the organ grinders or the monkeys that dance to. And there's not enough emphasis on other because the corporate market is monopolized. You've got major companies that this is who gets all the push. And it's a lot of hustle and roll. But for independent creators to think that they're going to have a full-time living here off of their art when they've got to compete with that monstrosity, you know, it's not going to work in the comic industry. It's not going to work in comic stores. You're not going to have a full-time thing. You have to be more realistic unless you're working with somebody that's distributing you, somebody that you have an arrangement with. But that's all up in the air now because clearly that system is dying. It's just dying. These smaller mid-tier companies can't compete with the monopolies that are DC and Marvel. It used to be anti-monopoly and antitrust laws in North America, most specifically, I think, the States. Where are those now? You know, where are those at now that that this can happen, where you've got the Diamonds and all these other companies that push away small independents because they have these larger expectations of accommodation that can only be met by these large machines. And when mid-level companies try to keep up at that same level, well, they only last so long. Like CrossGen, Defiant, Valiant. How many times have we seen Valiant as a company pop up and pop down, pop up and pop down? 3 times, I think, at least. Mad Cave is gone. They're Chapter 11. Didn't pay a lot of people. Dark Horse went through its change. IDW, same thing, right? There's, you know, when there's less concern on the creative, there's less concern on the individuals, the humans, and the expectation of accommodation from their productivity for the corporate engine, for the machine. Well, you're going to have less people to do that stuff. Oh, hello, Seven. Thank you for that, Seven. Seven always reminds me of this. I never remember. Look at that. Huh? Goodness gracious. Looks like I know what I'm doing. I don't. Seven does that for me. Thank you, Seven. I think that with anything, produce your work. Tell your stories, because that is always going to have merit. Don't worry about the corporate monsters. Don't worry about, you're going to have to do something else for your main bread. Work as a graphic designer, you know, work as a plumber, work as a janitor, do whatever. And but make your work and tell your stories, because that's what people are waiting for. Because at the end of the day, there's a more unique and authentic connection that people will have with a piece like Gary's, you know, something that Seven's going to put out. Then they're going to remember whatever arbitrary Batman story there is. There's always only ever going to be a dozen really good Batman stories. You know, and some of the Batman stories that were the most appreciated in the 1940s, well, what are they now? But there's certain pieces they're going to hold on. Killing Joke, Alan Moore, 1980s, right? There's only ever going to be so many good things, so much diversity that is going to be out there that people are going to appreciate. And it's going to be more authentic, individual material created by human beings that's going to count. So don't worry about the robots. Once we can figure out what the new process will be, as opposed to the process that exists now that's dying, once we figure that out, what that is, and figure out how we can equip ourselves for our material to be seen and heard by people, then things will change. But as the system stands now, it's entirely corporate and capitalistically biased. That's it. That's, you know, I try not to get all socialist in my rants, but it happens, you know. But the truth is that this is how the industry works. Seven. Don't trust the robots. I don't know how many times I popped that on the screen from Seven saying that, but I don't know where things are going to go. But Don't stop making what you're making. Don't stop telling the tales that you're doing. There will be a new system to come around. I think that this can only last so long. Do you remember when DC was on top of the world with the Batman movies in '89? You know, through the '94, right? '89 through '94. Oh, there we go, 7. Don't trust the robots. Yeah. Batman '89, fantastic. Top of the world. Everybody's Batman. Everybody's DC. Teen Titans and X-Men comics were top sellers in the 1980s. And '86, you got Superman started to go over again. It's the first time since '38. Superman had a first appearance again. John Byrne's Man of Steel series. The new Superman, the mainstream Superman. New books for everybody, right? New origin, new year one for Batman. George Perez doing Wonder Woman. DC was at a high point, and Marvel was in the dregs. They couldn't hit the mark for anything except for the X-Men. And so you saw, to fill that gap, you had all these smaller independent companies firing on full cylinders and creating all kinds of stuff. And you'd see all kinds of stories and books. Anybody that's tuned into this, let me know if you ever saw a copy of The Fish Police, because that would be a random example that I would use to say the amount of independent books that people would be exposed to. You would remember some of the most random books because of that. You know, of course, the Turtles came out of that, right? A lot of different projects came out of that time period. Heavy metal, North American market, all kinds of stuff. Mad Magazine was on fire that time period still in the 80s, 70s, 80s. 70s would be its high point, I suppose. And then afterwards, it started homogenizing again. We're just in a homogenized period. That's all it is. But I think that this market is going to change. I think that you're going to see a deregulation of the controlled market by these corporate bodies, these corporate companies. And I think that you're going to see more things coming up, like, you know, Random House companies that solicit independent books. I think it's inevitable for us to see that, because this isn't working. It's only working for the corporations. And as much as the corporations are going to desperately try to hold on to this being the way it stays, they can't. It doesn't work. It won't last, because people's attention doesn't stick around. You know, I don't expect that people stick around and watch this as a whole talk. I don't think people's attention span can handle it. I think that people flit in. I don't pay attention to my numbers, but I think that people flit in and flit out and flit in and flit out. It's all I can do to look at what comments. I don't even really know I don't know how to check my numbers. I'm not interested in it. That's not my motivation I'm just talking while I'm drawing. How do I become successful independent guy? I have no idea. I don't have any advice for anybody for that. Just do what you're doing. Make the work. And then when it comes to how do we get the work out and how do we get it going someplace, I think other people have advice that I don't. But bearing in mind, and I said this in a earlier talk I did, it worked for them. Oh yeah, 7. Now the Marvel Universe of Madness is what's the hype. It isn't. It isn't. I mean, sure, Marvel garbage everywhere, but Marvel's competing with itself. The Marvel Universe is owned by Disney, and Disney also owns the Star Wars universe. There's a war of 2 different major franchises that are both owned by the same corporate entity. I watched an argument recently between 2 people that I know, think highly of which one's the better one. And I thought, How ridiculous is this? You know, they're both the same thing, right? Both the same company. So it doesn't matter which is better. They're the same. Gary, I think it's important to concentrate on what you actually have control over. There we go. I think it's important to concentrate on what you actually have control over, the work and your own process. The rest is something that is risky to get too preoccupied with. Amen, Gary. I think that's right on point. The idea that let's all get together and start promoting all of our independent works. Well, you can support one another. Ideally, that's not how it should work. I mean, ideally, you look at what somebody else is putting out and say, hey, you know, I think somebody else that I know would like that. That doesn't necessarily involve in making it. But aside from that, I don't know, when I hear about independence and small press things, or I've been approached by in 2 instances now, because this is my 31st book I'm working on, and because I've done all of these other projects and stuff. Well, why don't we collect those and put those out as trades through our company? Well, hey, who's this person? Look at that. Thank you, Married to a Creative. He's one of my favorite people on the planet Earth. Because the problem with the whole, hey, Philip's here. How you doing, buddy? Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everybody, by the way. I think Happy New Year, Malcolm. Happy New Year, Seven. Happy New Year, Gary. Happy New Year, Philip. Happy New Year, Married to a Creative. Did I miss anybody? I hope I didn't miss anybody. Happy New Year, everybody that said something. Hi, so far. I think that if you look at, what's the benefit to you as a creator? Philip just got home. Hey, that's good. I'm glad you traveled safely. As I look at it as a creator, what's the benefit for this other company, small tier company, bad reputation for printing, one of them. The other company is, we're going to talk. But what's the benefit for me publishing with them? I don't know. I'm not worried about that right now. I'm still doing what I'm doing. I've got Stream of Conceitedness Volume 1 is ready, folks. Here, I'll show you. I'll show you something fun. Give me 1 second here. Here's the cover. I'm going to pull it up in camera. I was in a couple hours ago, Philip. Philip says he's surprised he saw me live a couple hours ago and surprised to see him still here. I'm not still here. I went and had lunch. I'm back. And I'm back. All right, here is the cover for Stream of Conceitedness #1. So this is, I'm going to drop out some stuff here. Give me a second. All right, so this is the cover for the first issue of Stream, and it's 44 pages right now, but it's Volume 1. It's the first it's the first part of what's going to end up being, and I have to decide: am I going to do Stream now, or am I going to? Yes, that is me getting kicked in my own butt, by the way. But I hit the target, huh? I hit the target in the image. That's good. Got to hit the target. Oops, wrong one. This one. Hey, monkey. So that is that's something I've got a 44-page project then that I'm not putting out right now, because I'm not sure if should I just do part 2, part 3, and part 4. It's going to round out to about a 200-page trade. So do I wait to do it as a trade, or do I do, beef up what I've got here and do 50-page hardcovers for each block? I don't know. I don't know yet. And because I need to finish A Village Haunted, the piece I'm working on now. My focus right now is to get that done because people have been watching through this process for a couple months now. So I'm going to finish that. And then I'll figure out what I'm putting out and how I'm putting it out. Maybe if people have tips or advice on that thought, would you rather see something like Stream of Conceitedness? And that's the thing that I was posting before I started posting A Village Haunted. That was the piece about the guy in the movie and the robots versus UFOs and the explosions and the people watching the film and talking and arguing through it. All of those little key parts are from Stream, part 1. So would people rather see that, or would they rather see would they rather see that as a whole project, or would they rather see that as installments? I don't know, because one page did okay. The Sasquatch book is, has done okay. I didn't publish a Sasquatch book. That was a different publisher that published me. But it's too much to be concerned about right now. I'm working on the creating part, and because it takes some X amount of time, I'm just focused to that. And I'm either going to try to see if I can work with a different company and take my books to them ready to go, or then I might look at publishing from that point forward. So owning a comic company gives me that little bit of leeway, but that also falls back to I don't necessarily want to have to do all that stuff anymore. I don't want to necessarily have to do all the comic company stuff anymore. It's one thing. We published One Page Comic Extravaganza was the 70th independent book that we've published. And of all the anthologies and all the stuff that we've done with other people, it's great, but it's only to be able to work with so many people and to be able to have the opportunity to publish the hard worked for efforts for people. And the only amount that we made off of that was the cost. And the cost from this paid for every time I did a book, there's no profit. It's either cost and money back into the company for growth, because I had another job to do this. That's the realistic approach. And so we were able to publish as many people as we have over the last since 2015 because of that platform. And here's the remaining copies of the book. You go promote yourself. Go take this and make a name for yourself. Because I'm not here for glory benefit for myself. That's not what RP Comics Runciman Press was about. It was about just getting my own stuff published because I wanted to put it out. That was the plan for my wife and I. But if I can afford other people assistance to come across that avenue for themselves, why wouldn't I do it? We're all human beings. We want to help each other. So I did. So, but I can't do that all the time. I don't want to do that all the time. I don't want to be a comic publisher. I'm a comic maker that has the facility to help others by putting together that stuff. But that stuff is exhausting and draining. So what you said resonates so clearly with me, Gary. Right? And I really appreciate that. And just to pump that back up again, concentrate on what you actually have control with over the work, your own process. Right? Don't get preoccupied with the rest. It's true. Because if that's what you get, you're going to become encumbered by that. It's only going to be about that at a certain point. It's only going to be about accommodating somebody else's wish fulfillment, their need. I want to be published as a comic creator. Okay, you're published. Go promote it. No, I'm good. Well, okay, but that doesn't work for the publisher if a person just gets the book published and then they're good. Because the publisher, it costs money to do that. And then what do they do when, X amount of those expenses, that doesn't last. You can't continue doing it that way. So it's tricky. You're always going to come across creators that it's I want to be published. Okay, well, get something done. They get something done. Okay, well, let me help you put that out. You can go and self-promote. Oh, no, I'm okay. I don't understand that myself. So I also don't, I also don't therefore want to engage on that front as much anymore. I still run a London Comic Jam here, and I still help my friends get their books put together and put those out. But I'm not actively pursuing the anthologies and stuff that we've put out for so many years at the moment, because I am focusing on my own process and my own creativity and sticking with that for the moment. And I recommend others do the same. I forgot to put the second dude in on the bike again. See, I erased this spot before because I did that. So in my image, in the rough image I have for this panel, there's the rough for that panel. And there is the rough for that panel. Now, I'll put the chain link in the Photoshop, but I got to put the second kid on his bike here. It's going to be a little bit easier because he's going to be a lot of smaller. So, but unfortunately, I have dulled the grain on the paper here. Yeah. So those of you that are out producing material, those of you that are interested in pursuing creative outputs, creative avenues, I would suggest that nothing matters outside of that. I'm not saying detract from your life. I'm not saying that don't live in the world and don't do all the things that you really need to do to live in the world. What I'm saying is just get the thing done. Just do the work. As soon as you got that done, as soon as you got something together that you can now do something with, then let's look at stage 2. And if anybody needs a hand figuring out stage 2, well, I'm not hard to find. I'll help you figure out stage 2. That's not me promising to publish things right now. But what I mean by that is there's people like myself. Gary's published. There's a number of different people out there that you can talk to. Now, I'm not volunteering Gary either. But there's a number of people out there that you can talk to that have done this process that'll give you the quick answers. It doesn't mean they're going to sit down and be your counselor and walk you through all the answers you've ever needed in life. They got stuff to do too. But people are willing to help other people, because at the end of the day, people that tend to make books like to read books, right? And because they like to read those books, of course they're going to encourage others to make those books. That's saying that there are people I met in making books that no, they don't read books and they don't like others that do it. For them, it's just a job. So take care of who you're chatting with. Realize that people are just people and everybody's different. If there's one thing Depeche Mode taught me, people are people. That and it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. Understood. Oh. I better put away this soapbox. people know the soapbox example, right? A lot of early public orators in North America in the times of the Depression would stand on soapboxes, wooden soapboxes, so they could see over the crowd, and pre-microphone so that people in the crowd could hear them farther back. It's a soapbox platform. I tend not to need a soapbox in crowd situations because I am a shaved Sasquatch. So I've tried to show in this panel that a disturbance in the grass, a disturbance in the forest. As these kids are riding by, I've laid out this area here for the dirt and the worn paths up to the baselines as they ride across this field, this baseball diamond. And I've left this room here, here, and here for their dialogue. So just so we can track the dialogue points, right? The dialogue would follow, right, like this as an arc. And then where he says, I'm tired, needs to be down here, because that way your eye goes, is this in camera? I'm so sorry. So I've moved I'm tired down to here. So your eye now goes like this. And those are the things I think about when I'm drawing on my pictures. We got to think about those things when we're drawing our pictures. I'm excited to see what people are doing. I'm excited to see how I can support others in this in their community. I'm excited to see real earnestness in creativity. I'm excited to see that people are looking at if they're a storyteller, you can tell. If they're marketing over story, you can tell. Because some people, it's not that, well, I had to learn how better marketing savvy. No, you're just better. You're a marketing guy. You are or you aren't. And there's nothing, I'm not taking it away from people that are better at marketing. I'm just saying that some people are trapped in their creativity in the sense that might not be as good at marketing, but there's something more happening in the work. None of that matters. Anyways, is the point I was getting to about A or B. None of that matters about who's better at what and if who's more or less legitimate in whatever way they work. And when it comes to what, the majority of people that are probably watching this do. We feel a need to create and to tell stories. And we're going to do that. If we have to accommodate our lifestyles by working part-time or full-time someplace else to do it, then we do. But don't stop believing. There you go. Don't give up on recognizing that it's going to take a lot of work to get there. It's going to take a lot of work to get your stuff done. And because you're not a machine, because you're not an automated process, don't think about competing with automated processes, whether it's a corporate one, whether it's a technological one, whether, God help us all, if Marvel starts doing corporate books with 12-fingered Spider-Mans. Actually, I'd be into that. He shoots the web out of his hands, like every finger. How does the algorithm read that? Don't overly concern yourself in all those things. Just look at it from the vantage point of, what can I do? And that's it. Then you're cooking with the gasolines. And you're probably going to do something more authentic. You're probably going to do something more unique. The sci-fi book that I've been working on is mental. I'm having a ball. It's mental. It's I can show you one piece of research that I've done for it really quick. Little memento, silver plate. That's not how you're supposed to say that. I keep sketchbooks. Everybody knows I keep sketchbooks. I talk about them all the time. Okay. Here. This is some of the characters that I'm doing in this book. And the way I figure by having all these different space races and things like that, uniform, is by having them all with face tattoos or different kinds of markings. Like that is the social trend in society, is that people differentiate themselves and from others, not so much by from speciation and the differences of I'm from this planet and I'm a purple guy, and I'm from this planet and I'm a blue girl, or a blue they, or weird bug-eyed guy or frog dude. That's the tattooing, the cultural significance of their tattooing that they all put on themselves. So that's one of the little insights. Thanks, Gary. That's one of the. Oh, and thanks, Seven. That's really nice. You and others have something to say, unlike big studios that have an agenda. This will sell toys or video games. That's for sure. Oh, thanks, Gary. Thank you both. I think that whatever you're doing with your sketchbook, go for it. Here is my favorite story idea that I want to do. One-page comic with somebody of. Oh, particularly like the turtle being on the lower left. What's that? This guy? I call him Dave. Yeah, they're fun. It's fun to do doodles like these. Yeah, you got to have a ball. Little hats, a robot face guy. Anyways, this is the book I want to do, or story I want to do. I really want to do a one-page comic of Haunted Bow Tie. This is the goofiest. Everyone that wears it kills. Maybe that's all I need to do is just a one panel illustration, one image illustration for that one, because it just says itself. Just the title card for that sort of sells the whole notion of it. Do I really need to example it with a narrative, or just show different examples of people that have worn this bow tie over history? That could be fun. Have it last from 1800s well into 2300 space alien wearing it. So that might be fun. Oh, thanks, Seven. That's nice. Yeah. Boink, boink. I'm trying to remember to do the little click-ons because people watch this on Facebook and I don't think they see any of the comments at all. All right. So in my notes, what am I for time? We're doing good. Well, keep going. There's a first panel. I've reduced down the image, and the reason that I reduced down the size of the image is to, one, break the uniformity of panel to panel sizes being the same. While that's good, it just leads the eye across, right? Where if I want to intimate an organic flow, I want to change the size and shape of the panels, overlap them. There's a lot of fine examples of this that you can look at. I would suggest that Stuart Immonen, Immonen. He is particularly good. And now I'm going to use particularly because I can see that Gary wrote it. He's really good at showing the diversity of panels. But what I'm doing here is full size. I've got this raised panel here to make the eye move this way. And I'm going to drop down again, but I'm going to do an open face panel. So I'm going to put the roots of the tree here as it carries over there. And I'm going to put the two boys and their bikes, but I'm not going to draw anything else. There's no line on this side of the panel. I'm going to keep the information on this panel to conform as though it's inside a guiding line. Nothing's going to go past this point, which is 2/8 inside of the next panel. And then that next panel size is going to be the same height as the bottom of the tree and this full-size panel again. So it's the most minor amount of diversity for panel sizes in this level, but it's going to keep the flow going throughout this arc along the top and running up again towards the end. And then down in the lower panels, I'm going to do the opposite sort of an approach, whereas because the panel carries through all the way to the corner piece, when it comes back, it's redirected downwards again. And I do that by having the visual information in the panel move the eye this way, so that when we come to this side, just to emphasize on that more, I've reduced this panel down below the standard line like I have raised this guy up, same amount of diminishment here, so that it allows the reader to separate this line from this line. And raises up, open face panel again, with the two kids laughing at the tree. I'm not going to include the bikes this time. And then the next panel is dropped down again, because the height of the kids, the text might run to the top, but we want to keep the reader's eye down here now. And then the last two panels are regular size again, like they are up above. So there's a consistent rhythm to the page. So when roughing out your pages, think about how the elements play together for the panels and the narrative, because our principal action here is storytelling. So think about how the elements that are inside, the characters, the context, okay, and make sure the third part is that you leave a place for the narrative. So that's what I'm trying to example here as I'm doing it, to whatever limited means I'm able to do it. So just walking you through my process. I can't be ranting all the time. Yes, I can. Oh, wait till I can. I sure can. What's with monkeys, huh? Yeah, they think they're so big. 7. Did I send? Yes, you did, 7. I've got it. I have not had an opportunity to go to look at it yet, unfortunately. One of your mentors passed away. I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, Vivian Westwood. Yeah, never promise your tomorrows to anyone. That's an interesting idea. Yeah, I can't live by never promise your tomorrows to anyone. I've got kids, and the more responsibilities you get over time, the less affordance you have for not promising tomorrow to anyone. And I got a lot of responsibilities, but I like them. I got some pretty great people around. Not saying that to be braggadocious. I'm just saying it like that's one of the blessings of taking on those things, is that you get to be involved with some crazy cool cats, kittens, and Corbins. I shouldn't have said his name. Now he's looking at me. Okay. All right. So there's our first 2 panels. So now I'm drawing this open face panel of the tree. Now, the tree. I'm going to jump to the screen again for a moment. And I'm going to jump into the other book. Bum, 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 bum. Here. Okay, clickety, clickety, click. Clickety, click, barber trick. Okay, here we go. So, part 2 on the story. The 2 girls are walking home from choir at the church, and they're walking past their high school, and there's this tree on the ground. They start hearing voices making noises. So I think before I draw this panel, I think I actually need to draw the bikes in the distance, because when you look at this page, they'd see the bikes. So I can't have the bikes behind the tree. But the two characters that we've been following through chapter 4 are hiding behind that tree, and it's them that are calling the girls. Spoiler alert, a little late on that one. Go back to this time and you won't be spoiled. So I have to, so that one of the things I need to do for myself is to look at that tree and to recognize where the branch structure is and try to emulate that as I'm drawing this panel now. So if you're doing a piece where you've got characters going back to previously established scenes, keep track of those scenes. Keep track of where things are and in context to one another. Now, I'm turning the camera. So let me see. All right, paintbrush, it's your job. So if this is the tree, now the scene, the camera is looking that way from the vantage of the girls over here. Hey, we're girls, we're over here. Oh, you know what I could use? I use muscle for the girls. Here we go. Hey, look at us, we're some girls. Oh, what's happening with that tree? That's what you come for, is a professionalism. So if the camera's looking this way, in the first page of chapter 2, and they're looking at the tree, they don't see anybody at the tree. They think the sound is coming from the ethereal around them. Where's the magic sound coming from? It's ghosts. But the truth is that the two boys are on this side of the tree. Hey, we're kids, we're hiding behind a tree. So what I can do, so we know the kids are here, is I can turn the camera, because I'm in control of the camera. It's the whole thing about being a storyteller making books, is that you're all the parts of the production of a film. So, and I'm going to look at, so where this tree's branch that's stuck up here, which I'll show you a side view of. Now, I'm going to rotate that around to this side. And then that way I can have a side shot of the two boys behind the tree. Would you do webtoons, Christopher, instead of publishing a comic? What is webtoons? If I looked at something, I don't know if it was webtoons or not, but I looked at something that was another avenue for storytelling recently, and I thought about doing a type of blog like that. But the problem with these blogs, in all honesty, can't get my glass thing out, who cares? The problem with these blogs, honestly, is that I'm kind of doing that now, aren't I? Maybe that is the option. Maybe instead I start posting to those platforms, or I guess it would have to be instead, because what's the point of posting to a monetized thing on the same day as you're posting it to your non-monetized thing? Why would anybody go to the monetized one? So maybe that's something I need to consider more clearly and to investigate more. If I'm not mistaken, and I did look at a couple of platforms. Now, if I'm not mistaken, and people please clarify if I'm being a bozo here, they look largely manga. And I would argue that I don't fit that. I don't fit manga. I don't know what I fit, to be honest, because I'm not, as plainly realistic. I tend to be pretty stylized. I take some real stylized leaps in abstraction and how I draw some things, but I don't know that if webtoons is a manga-based thing or not. But I'll have to look more, I guess. And the second thing that my wife and I looked at was, I really do not. I've tried open up a whole bunch of different things over time to post stuff on, and I realized that I don't really care about some of these platforms. And I mean, Twitter, I was getting over inundated with far more political discourse than I care about, so I got rid of that. And just a number of different things. Tumblr was doing nothing, got rid of that. But I don't know. I'd have to look more into Webtoons, I think, and see if that's something that. But the challenge is getting everybody that's enjoying it on the platforms that I'm putting it, like Facebook, like Instagram, and trying to get them to go and look at it on Webtoons. And I'm going to be plainly honest, whether or not I promote my Patreon the way I do, I don't get a lot of Patreon people either. So even though I post everything there too, and additional stuff there too. So this is one of those things that sort of identifiably shows the deficit I have of, I concern myself about making far more than I concern myself about marketing. But if anybody's forayed into Webtoons and has positive or negative experience, there's benefit to hearing that. So does anybody get the impression that I'm stubborn? Does anybody get the impression that I'm a stick in the mud? What? The Webtoons? Ah, I'm not getting into Webtoons. What is a balloon? Hi, what'd you say? What balloon? I'm not getting on a balloon. Where are we going? Oh, that's very nice, you Seven. Okay, I'm going to put this comment up. I go. You would stand out in contrast and have a serious punch with your story or stories. Potentially, I would say that I may also very well, not be paid attention to because I don't connect to the larger context of the site and the majority of the people that are clearly putting on and publishing and reading things on it. Does anybody here have a Webtoons account that pays Webtoons to look at these pieces that are on there? That would also be information that would help out, because if we're all talking about putting on Webtoon, but none of us have a Webtoon thing account that lets us buy and look at other people's things, if that's the platform that it works as, then maybe that, sort of takes away the evaluation of something when you realize that, oh yeah, I do it, but I don't read them. So one of the things that I'm doing right now is that as I'm drawing this branch, I'm recognizing that the branch grows organically out of a tree, right? There. So if the tree is shaped, well, here we go again. If the tree is shaped like so, okay? So you can draw the bark coming down like this, but where does the bark? So the bark for the branch actually needs to be drawn to organically flow from the base point, from the trunk. So you can't just draw these flat lines running across an image and then draw flat lines going that way. That's why those things don't look like trees. So you want to make sure that your lines follow down into the lower part of your tree, and conversely into the upper part of your tree. And so the branch has grown out of the tree. And then you'll see things like a knot right here, and that knot right here is a failed branch, maybe a branch that was cut off. If there's a little nub out here that moves out this way for another failed branch, but you can see how these lines organically pop in and out of there. Trees, huh? They're not just for breakfast anymore. Oh, I did it, huh? It's my call sign for today. I get excited when I say the thing that I put up for the whatever the broadcast or my video thingy, right? So, anyways, that's what this is here. This is looking at how these lines that we see above the branch, we know that they actually come from the branch itself. Okay. And then, of course, they also come from the bottom of said branch as well. Right? So when we're drawing the lower part of our tree, we got to take account of those things. But at the same time, we're starting to put more shadow in this close-up image. So I'm actually going to, even though I know where I'm placing my shadow already, I'm going to put some of these lines. 7. Christopher's not just for breakfast anymore. Breaking news. Christopher Runciman is not just for breakfast anymore. All right, so this is where we're going to place that knot, that failed branch, and we're going to draw some of this broken off piece, and we're going to use this opportunity to throw some of these lines around that eye, right, in order to realistically draw our tree. And that follows through, so that there's our branch. So the branch comes out of the, and I hope you can see that. I hope that's clear enough there. I've tried to improve the setup on the camera and everything else, the miking, so that you can hear me more clearly, and so you can see more readily the things I'm trying to example. So I'm putting in some of this bark cracking structure here through a very stylized way that I'm doing that with this little cross hash now. But I think it sort of helps to clarify the texture of the tree branch. So I'm putting some of that in here now. And then there's the little leaves on the tip of it. So when it comes to the if I were to ink this, or if I were to do the final shading on this, then I would tone that gray out there into the black, and the same here, and the same there. So this surface here is the black of the shadow, just to give it a little more character, a little more, hey now, what now? That's some exciting stuff there, Christopher. Well, I'm glad you like it. Oh, yeah. So thanks for tuning in and hanging out. I hope everybody had some good holidays. Whatever holidays you celebrate the ones where you hope for all the jelly beans. I hope you got the jelly beans you hope for. If you celebrate one that makes you wrestle people for control of the pole of power, then I hope that you You won the poll this year from the rest of us. And then you get to air your grievances at the table, and that's always nice. If you don't know, I'm referring to Seinfeld right now. Mr. Seinfeld, George's dad, hates Christmas, and so he's had enough of it. So he starts his own Yuletide celebration called Festivus for the rest of us. And it's ridiculous. But if you get a chance to watch that episode of Seinfeld, it's very, very funny. So in pencil, this looks a little flat, but when you do this with a nice crisp ink, yeah, buddy. Or in the case of converting it to the black inks in Photoshop, instead of having to ink all this jazz myself, then it changes it up and gives it real depth and character to it. What have we got? Philip says, I just need to get this year underway. No time like the moment. You're home? You just got home for your holidays? I still celebrate the Festivus. It's on the 23rd. I wished happy holidays to a friend of mine that does Festus on the 23rd, and he was so excited that I got Festivus Day right. He was so pleased. He was going to make a donation to the Human Fund in my name because he was so pleased with me as a human. Which tree branch? Why does his personally failed branch are trimmed by the groundskeeper at the school? Well, I think that whenever you look at anything that you're trying to capture in your image, whenever you look at a tree, whenever you look at fencing or whatever it is, whatever object you're looking at, try to think about the key element of said objects. Like when you look at a tree, you want to find the tree is an organic living thing, so you want to find the organic language of it. It's a tricky thing to maintain that, to remember the integrity of that nothing is perfect and nothing is absolutely uniform. I mean, you're going to have things like a car. You're going to find symmetry for the two sides of a car. They tend not to have real variances from one side to the other side of a car. But it's a manufactured thing, so it's going to look different than an organic thing, like a bush or a tree or a person. And so if you draw all of the people in your story that look exactly the same, it's not going to work. In the sci-fi thing that I showed you there, I do have, and this is part of the try to have something to say in whatever you're working on, but I have characters in that are ostensibly clones. They're not. They're just duplicates. It's from a place where people can duplicate themselves as a survival feature. It's you take great leaps when you're doing science fiction things. You take great leaps to, well, how would that work? Well, it works because I said it is, because I'm in charge of it. Well, yeah, but no, I'm in charge. I do what I want, right? And so George Martin gets away with some of the ludicrous nonsense he puts into his books. Well, how come the elves are always well, because I decided the elves are this. I wrote the book. It's like there's an argument about who's stronger, Superman or Mighty Mouse, right? This is one of those comic nerd arguments that I hope you've never been drawn into. Who is stronger, Superman or Mighty Mouse? Or if you think of any other punchy Magoo guy, Shazam, Captain Marvel, the lady Captain Marvel at Marvel Comics. When I say Captain Marvel, I mean Shazam, right? Miracle Man, Luke Skywalker, any super type pastiche Dragon Ball guy. Who's the strongest? There's an easy answer for this. Does anybody know it? And if you think you know it, write it in the comments. Who's the strongest of all these different franchises? Who is the most strong person? Period. You don't have to validate why. Just who do you think it is? Any takers? As I'm sure that some of you can sense that I got an angle here. I got an angle. Oh, here we go. First contender. Malcolm is One Punch Man. Because one punch. Definite points for that, Malcolm. Definite points. One Punch Man, because one punch. All right. That's a good one. That's a good lead. Anybody else? That's a serious contender. This is what's called the soup argument, either way. Nobody else? All right. So Malcolm has put forward One Punch Man. And so here's the terrible answer for this. True. Conditionally. And what I mean by conditionally is One Punch Man is the strongest of all of the franchises and all of the super types and all of the who's the strongest or who's got the massive force powers or who's the bestest because of the things and the stuff. It's a soup argument. What's the best soup? Tomato soup. Why? Because I like tomato soup. Well, I like chicken noodle soup. Oh. Why? Well, I don't like tomato. Or I don't like, I like chicken noodle because I don't like tomato soup. It's the soup argument. And so what that means is it's arbitrary. I always say that who's the strongest superhero, and I'll give you One Punch Man because you put that forward first. So by that extension, technically you win. It's One Punch Man because you're going to write your One Punch Man story to punch everybody else out with one punch. Now, if it's being published by the company that owns Superman, they're going to write it that Superman doesn't get completely flattened with one punch. Why? Because Superman. We own Superman. Well, the female Captain Marvel can fly through Thanos' ship. Why? Because we own female Captain Marvel, and we decided that that's what's happening. It's a soup argument. It's the character that's the strongest is the strongest character because the creators decided that. No more. No other reason. You can legitimize everything until the cows come home, and you can argue about the wherefores and whys of it until the end of the earth. But the simple truth is, this character is the strongest because, well, I decided. I say Mickey Mouse. Why? Because of a team of lawyers. I think I'm going to finish this little panel up and I'll call it a day after that. Philip. Philip says, I think even Stan Lee said that the strongest character is the one the writers need to be for that story. The exception is Marvel versus DC, where the fans voted. Did they really, though? You know that the fans actually voted for Robin to die, right? And the DC vote in to see if you want Robin to be killed by the Joker or not. That vote actually was won in the favor of Robin dying. It's just that I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I got my phone buzzing off of me. Not because of my Beatus, but because messages. Yeah, that thing was voted. No, I'm sorry. Let me correct myself. That was the vote actually went for by a landslide that Robin gets killed because they wanted there were people that were voting numerous times to kill that kid. And then at the same time, when it came to the Marvel versus DC, who's going to win, as much as people wanted it to be the votes that counted, there had to, even despite the votes, they sat down and they had to adjudicate a balance so that both companies looked equal. Because my understanding was more people from one company voted for all those guys to be tougher. And logistically, I'm sorry, Captain America doesn't beat up Superman, period. So, if you notice that the pairings of who fights who, they're very established. You're not going to have Superman fight Captain America because Superman, it's a short fight. But you're going to have, Wonder Woman and Thor fight. Well, that's all great, but you have to make sure that there's a balance for the two companies about, enough characters on this company, enough characters on that company are winning, so that's not too lopsided. But realistically, in the case of a Marvel versus DC fight, Marvel is in some serious trouble because I'd say the arguable difference between the two is that DC are gods. They're a pantheon of gods. The levels of power are so ridiculous in comparison to Marvel's characters. Marvel has God-like characters that are established with these great deal of powers. But DC is truly fashioned on a pantheon of gods. I don't know that I necessarily agree that DC should win. I think that there's something compelling to say that both companies should win equally. But logistically, Marvel's in trouble. There's a thing in a magazine called Wizard years ago where they tried to say which super team would win in a battle of all the super teams. And the winner was, a book that I really enjoy reading. Or I have enjoyed reading until Brian Michael Bendis got involved. Terrible series. But the idea is that the Legion of Superheroes would win in a battle between all the superheroes by sheer numbers, because the Legion of Superheroes has at least a minimum of 30 active members at any given time. And you've got multiple Supermans in that front. Like you've got multiple people with the abilities of Superman. And that is an unfair playing field. So but yeah, DC's people are grossly OP compared to the others. Miracle Man, now, Miracle Man or Marvel Man, as he's also known, the series by Alan Moore, and now the new series is by Neil Gaiman. Marvel Man may well be able to slap around the majority of most superheroes, just because the sheer gross ability of that character by the time that that series has ended. All right, so I'm just going to draw the little boy resting up against the tree. There's his little knee. And I think Seven, just listening, love this discussion. This is the dorkiest discussion I think I've ever had on here. But it's a super argument. Who wins between Superman, Batman, whoever, the writer? You want to make it interesting. Have them all get beat up by Archie Andrews or something. Give it some teeth. All right. So there's the first of the two kids saying that I'm tired, and the other one says, I'm hungry. But I've tried to put him in and behind the tree, and I'm going to have his friend standing right here beside him. Yeah, see, his chin's too low. That chin's a little bit too low. If I'm still a proponent of, and this is probably the thing that would ever keep me from getting this is the sort of stuff I think that keeps me from getting whatever these the algorithm gods there are about people seeing your YouTube show, is that I will advocate that if you really like your superhero books and your superhero characters, and to stop dreaming about working for the corporate companies. It might happen and it might work out for you well, and that there's nothing wrong with having a dream, but why don't you just do your own version? Why don't you do your own? I really like Spider-Man. Make a Spider-Man guy. Call it a pastiche. I like Spawn. Pronounce the W. I'm a big fan of Spawn. Have you read the latest issue of Spawn? Do a Spawn thing, man. Who cares? Look at things. There's fantastic stuff out there. Like, look at the Tick. The Tick has fantastic renditions of clearly Superman, clearly Elektra, and the first run of that book. And you just got to be creative in how you do your own interpretation of characters. That's the secret. I'm getting the vibes of Christopher Robin here with this kid here. I'm getting Christopher Robin vibes. Does anybody know what Christopher Robin is from? Such kind of a dumb question, I know, but that's what I ask. Dumb questions. The tick's battle cry is spoon, says 7. Oh, there's my alarm. Saying ramp it up. The tick's battle cry is spoon. Yes, indeed. Christopher Robbins from Winnie the Pooh. The poo? Oh my God, that's disgusting. You are. So, just gonna draw on his little laces. Oh, you little cute little laces. And then that's this guy. Put a Pooh Bear design on the shirt. No. It's important to remember to have a consistency to your drawings. Did he have a Pooh Bear in his shirt before? No. And I want the characters to run consistent through the story. So I'm taking pains and efforts to make sure that the tree is in where the place the tree would be, and the guys are dressed as the guys would be dressed. So here is Ricky, and then I've just got to draw Bug. So I've just got to decide how I'm going to draw Bug. I think that I'm going to have Bug yawning. I'm right at 2. Yawn. By having the open mouth and saying yawn, oh, with his arms raised up in this position, it's a yawning pose. If it was with a grimace on his face, it's a I'm about to hammer you with my 2 fists pose. Leaving this little tiny space of line right here, not connecting him quite, in order to make sure you recognize that he's behind the other. Some interesting little divots and whatnot in those lines. Raise his shirt up a little bit. Collar. This is a kid with a collar and the pants. There we go. All right. I think I'm going to call it a day, folks. Gonna figure out something for old dinner. Yep. I'm at that age where I'm eating dinner this early. It's actually because I have to schedule times to eat with medication. So I think I'm going to sign off here. I'll just draw his fingers in here quick. There we go. Yawning. crazy here. Thanks for the listening today. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for hanging out. This is a lot of fun for me. I try to do this at 2 o'clock every day. I'll be back tomorrow. And I hope you guys, if you're kicking around, you're always welcome to come and join. If anybody's got any thoughts, or if anybody wants to join in with me, I'd love to have you. Let me know. We'll figure it out. We can figure out a different time too. If 2 o'clock doesn't work with schedules, I'm cool with that as well. I look forward to that. This is I think that it's a healthy thing to say that if we as a community support and encourage each other, not just, in the sense of, well, I'm going to tune into your thing. Share, take part in stuff. If there's stuff that I can do to help out, if anybody's looking for company on whatever it is they're doing, hey, yeah, sure, I'll come on over and, and do some beatboxing. You don't want that. But, so there's our open face panel. So I'm going to clean up these lines here, take them out, take this line out, the guiding line that I put in down here. So there is our open faced panel is what that's called. And I find these really fun open face panels. So you might be able to join in on Thursday. We'll see. Well, Gary, I look forward to that. Let's work that out. Man, I would really, really actually quite enjoy that quite a bit. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to wrap up here on this panel and call it to a draw as far as it goes for this. I might do some drawing on this later on today, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be in camera. I try to structure my day because I have other projects and other things that I'm working on, not just this one for myself, but I am doing a couple things for others. I can't just draw the one book all day. And so this sort of leads into what I was saying before about do what you can and able to afford yourself the ability to create the things that you have to say and want to do. Listen, I really enjoy everybody joining in today. If you didn't like my rant, forgive me. Eventually I'll have one, you will. Yeah, support each other, support individual creativity, support other artists, to whatever level that you're able to do so, and other creators and other storytellers, and encourage other people along as well. And I think that gets us all forward. Okay. I'm going to leave it there for today. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. And I'll see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock right here. Have a great one.